We are now post-Labor Day, and Kathy Hochul still has not accepted any debate requests yet. The first two that came in to us, one was from CBS 2 here in New York City, the other one was from Pix 11. We've since received more debate requests that have come in. We accepted CBS 2's request. We accepted Pix 11's request. What is Kathy Hochul so scared of? And this is something that she should be enthusiastic about. This is the democratic process. One where people who have their kids now going back to school, summer winding down, they're thinking about the November 8th election, they have an important decision to make. They have to choose the direction of New York State. Two very different paths. If they're concerned about rising crime in our streets, they have passion as it relates to congestion pricing. Maybe they're upstate and they're involved in the ag industry and they're concerned about today's vote of the Wage Labor Board where they're proposing to reduce the overtime threshold from 60 hours to 40 hours. Maybe it's a family that has their son going off to a yeshiva and they see a vote coming next week on the substantial equivalency standards. They want to know where we stand. And Kathy Hochul's whole approach to this is you have to elect her to find out where she stands on all these different important topics. Well, what's the best way to actually flush out our positions in front of everyone live on TV than having this debate? Now, I believe that we should have at least 2 debates in the New York City media market, at least 1 debate in the Capital Region media market, at least 1 debate in the Rochester or Buffalo media market, and at least 1 in the other media markets of New York. I'd be willing to debate Kathy Hochul in every media market in New York. I also believe that these debates need to happen now. Absentee voting is going to start here over the course of the next few weeks. You're going to have early voting starting right behind that just a few weeks later. We are only about 2 months away from this election. It's time for Kathy Hochul to start accepting these debate requests. You can't keep ducking these questions. And now she owes really the media a better answer than the canned response that she's given over the last few weeks where a staffer says that she'll debate, just generally. The time has come for her to actually be accepting these debates. Now, yesterday I was walking in the West Indian Day Parade in Brooklyn. A few weeks ago I was walking the Dominican Day Parade in Manhattan. A couple weeks before that I was walking in the Dominican Day Parade in the Bronx. Now, I've spent a lot of time, whether it's on the streets, during Harlem Week, talking to community leaders. It's with Asian American voters in Sunset Park or Chinatown here in Manhattan, or Flushing, Queens. It's talking to voters in Brighton Beach at the Jubilee, spending time on Staten Island, all across this city and the surrounding suburbs. I hear from people, not just Republicans, I hear from Democrats and independents who are concerned about the direction of this state. They're concerned about the direction of this city. They feel like there's a need for there to be balance in government right now. They also know how to fix it. We've reached a moment in time where the average New Yorker believes that they know how to fix this state, which leads Kathy Hochul to be even further alienating herself from everybody else. People feel a need to repeal cashless bail. Even New York City Mayor Eric Adams is asking for a dangerousness standard for judges, that discretion on far more offenses, and I agree with him, and I believe that there should be a special session to get that done. Kathy Hochul says she needs more data. My position is that Alvin Bragg is refusing to enforce laws across the board. He's making the streets of Manhattan less safe. Darcel Clark seems to be competing for the title of worst district attorney over in Bronx, as we saw in the most recent case where Jesus Cortez was punched into a coma, and the DA drops the charges to misdemeanor assault and harassment, and the person was instantly released out on cashless bail. Kathy Hochul says, cut Alvin Bragg some slack, he just got there, he's doing his job. Many of us gathered in front of Jose Alba's bodega recently. Jose Alba was forced to defend himself, very small space he was confined to. In that decision, fighting for his life, he ends up getting stabbed. He fights off his attacker. He ends up getting slapped with a murder charge, sent to Rikers Island. Alvin Bragg asked for hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of bail. The person who stabbed him doesn't get charged with anything. And when I was calling for the murder charge to get dropped, Kathy Hochul was saying it was a local matter, she wasn't going to get involved. These issues are really important to New Yorkers. But if you take a step back and you try to think, well, what's the impact of all of this? So you're walking the Dominican Day Parade in the Bronx or Manhattan. You're talking to someone who's here from the Dominican Republic. They come here with an American dream. Their American dream is their New York dream. Their New York dream is their New York City dream. It's all aligned. You're a hardworking, law-abiding bodega worker. Jose Alba decided to move back to the Dominican Republic because he no longer feels safe in New York. How crazy does that seem to you? It should shock the conscience of any proud New Yorker that that's the reality today. And all of these other issues that I'm sure Marsha Kramer would be asking at CBS, or whomever else would be the moderator at any of the debates, would be providing New Yorkers the answers to the issues that are most important to them. And that's why debates matter, and that's why we're here today. And right before I answer questions, I just want to specifically state for the record, you heard me reference today's vote, that the Wage Labor Board is having with regards to reducing the overtime threshold from 60 hours per week to 40 hours per week. I oppose that change. I'll state it clearly and unequivocally. No matter where you're on the issue, at least you'll know where I stand. Next week, there's a vote as it relates to the substantial equivalency push targeting yeshiva educations and other non-public institutions. I am opposed to that substantial equivalency push. Regardless of whether you're for it or against it, you'll at least know where I stand. As far as this push for congestion pricing, rather than trying to give some squirmy answer as the governor did during her Democratic debate with CBS, I will just state clearly for the record, I oppose congestion pricing. I would do absolutely everything in my power to stop it. I believe it's a bad idea from the economic standpoint to the reality of increased truck traffic on the Cross Island Expressway, Cross Island Parkway, the Staten Island Expressway, some of our smaller roads in Brooklyn and Queens. And along that theme, I'll be happy to open it up for any questions. And I'd be happy to answer any question that you have on any topic.
Congressman, are you committing to appear on your invitation to accept even if Kathy Hochul doesn't show up?
Absolutely.
And what, you said you've got other debate requests that have come in. Are you planning other appearances?
I'd be happy to have many debates. I've challenged Kathy Hochul to have at least 5 debates. And I am willing to debate her in every media market. By the way, there are unique issues. So if you want to talk about what's important in the Watertown media market, the questions might even be different from a debate in Rochester, a debate in Syracuse. I'm all open to debating her everywhere. And I'm talking about a live televised debate. We're not talking about 3 o'clock showing up with some local reporter only. No, we should be live on TV, and the voters of New York, after they're done with work, many other New Yorkers work around the clock. It should be videotaped, it should be recorded. If anyone missed it the first time, they should be able to watch the tape version. If anyone watched it once and they want to go catch something a second time, they should be able to do it. It should be all out there in the public domain, unedited.
Mr. Zeldin, Juan Manuel Benitez with New York One. Former President Trump held a fundraiser last night for you. I don't know if you were there. Are you planning on having the former president campaign with you in New York State?
So it was Sunday evening, the event, not last night, just for the record. And at this moment, there aren't additional events planned, but as far as my schedule goes, at some point this evening, I'll get an itinerary for tomorrow. We have a good team that puts together the schedule, and then I go do the itinerary. So as far as our schedule goes, as far as I'm aware, there isn't an additional event planned, but I wouldn't read into that one way or the other.
Would you like him to come with you to rallies and campaign for you actively?
Yeah, over the course of this campaign, over the next 60 days, we'll be traveling all over 62 counties of this entire state. There are many counties that strongly supported President Trump. There are other counties that didn't. And as far as it relates to campaigning with anybody, it's important that you're campaigning with the people who most strongly support a particular person who's campaigning on your behalf. So if we were to talk about there being an event, there would be a conversation to be had as to where that event would be held and when, what kind of an event, who are we meeting with, who are we rallying with, and that would apply with regards to anyone who comes.
So
But as far as that I have not had that particular conversation, but that's, if we were to have a conversation, that's where we would start.
Would you like him to campaign with you or not? It's just a simple question, yes or no. Would
If-
you like him to come with you to a rally to campaign with you?
Yeah, I mean, that's something that we might do. If we were to do an event, it would likely be an event that would be in some of the areas. I would imagine it would be in some of the areas where he might have the most amount of support.
So you
But
only,
again, that's it's a premature back and forth that we're having here, because this right here is the first conversation on that topic that I've had.
you're saying you only want him in areas where he's popular, but you don't want him to show up with you.
No, I didn't say that. I would just say with regards to anyone who wants to campaign with me, when you're having a conversation as to what kind of a campaign event you're going to have, the conversation would likely start with regards to where would we want to have the event, when would we want to have it, who would we want to have it with. And as far as brainstorming goes, at the top of the list, in a state of 62 counties, the conversation would start in whatever areas he happens to be the most popular, or she happens to be the most popular if it's someone coming into the state. So it's not, I'm not saying that any particular location I wouldn't campaign with someone. It's just if you're brainstorming a campaign event over the course of the next 60 days, that's where all conversations would start.
Congressman, I have a couple of questions. First of all, if you could react to the most recent poll, which has you only 4 points behind Kathy Hochul, and that's a big jump from the previous poll where you were 14 points behind. Your reaction to that?
I'm seeing it on the streets. Somebody was walking the West Indian Day Parade with me yesterday. Somebody was walking the Dominican Day Parades. If you're at the Asian American community events with me, if you're at the Jewish community events with me, you'll see as I'm engaging with these different communities that something is very different right now. It's not just Republicans, it's Democrats and independents as well. We're seeing it on the ground. There's strong support. New Yorkers are not happy with the state under Kathy Hochul's leadership. They're not happy with the direction of the state. They want balance restored. I have challenged Kathy Hochul to finish this sentence. And I would love to hear her try to answer this one for you. New York leads the entire nation in population loss because. Now, my answer would be that New York leads the entire nation in population loss because people are hitting their breaking point. They feel like their wallet, their safety, their freedom, the quality of their kids' education are under attack. They feel like if they go to some other state, they will live life freer, they'll feel safer, their money will go further. That is what's going on in their head when they decide to go somewhere else. That's why New York leads the entire nation in population loss. I'd like to hear Kathy Hochul answer that. And I think that more and more New Yorkers are realizing that she's not up to the job.
And let me just follow that up, and then I have another question. So do you think that the issues that are resonating with people are crime, congestion pricing, the tuition bill, the forgiveness efforts by the Biden administration? I mean, do you think that's also contributed to your rise in the polls? I mean, why do you think that you're resonating the way you are?
You know what's amazing is that if we all got together for a press conference when I got into this race 17 months ago, the top issues at that time are exactly the same as what they are now. Now there are current events with the conversation about how policies have impacted New Yorkers, the way that statements that have been made might impact the way New Yorkers are thinking. That might change a conversation on a particular day, but if we all got together, the top two issues, April 8th of 2021 when I got into this race, were crime and the economy. And at every single point over the course of the last 17 months, the top two issues of this campaign were crime and the economy. And that's not because I say so. That's not how this works. It's because New Yorkers say so. If you did a poll of New Yorkers and you asked them, what is your top issue to decide your vote for governor of the state of New York, what we're finding is that over 3/4 of New Yorkers will tell you either crime or economy as their number one issue. And many New Yorkers will say those are their top two issues. Now, it was an interesting tweet over the weekend. The Lieutenant Governor, Antonio Delgado, put out a comment about how Kathy Hochul is focused on uniting, and she's against division. And it's just a really big irony alert, because a lot of New Yorkers are self-reflecting on a comment that Kathy Hochul made just a couple of weeks ago, where she declared that I, a lifelong New Yorker, born and raised, only 4 years out of the state, was 4 years spent on active duty. She says I'm no longer a New Yorker. She demanded that I get on a bus and I move to Florida. Now, I'm not going anywhere. And I'm running to be the governor for all New Yorkers. Does that mean that all New Yorkers are going to vote for me? Of course not. But what happens after an election is over, you wake up the next day, it's November 9th, and you have a duty as the governor of the state of New York to try to be the governor for all New Yorkers. President Biden has the duty right now to be the president of all Americans. I disagree with Kathy Hochul on a number of policies, but I'm not here to declare that she's no longer a New Yorker. I'm not here to demand that she get on a bus and move out of the state. I'm here to demand that she show up at a debate. I'm demanding that we have multiple debates, and we do them now before absentee voting starts, before early in-person voting starts. I'm running against her because I feel like our state is heading in the wrong direction. I want to do my part to save this city. I don't know about Kathy Hochul, but when I hear the story of somebody who is afraid when they ride the New York City subway, they're talking about how they hug a guardrail or a pole because they're afraid of being pushed in front of an oncoming subway car. Now, I don't know what Kathy Hochul is keeping her mind occupied with over the course of today, but for me, that would keep me up at night if I'm the governor of the state of New York. She doesn't even comment about this stuff. And actually, the people who run Albany right now, the one-party rule, they feel like they haven't gone far enough with their pro-criminal policies. So when I say that we need to overhaul cashless bail and amend raise the age, we need to repeal the HALT Act because our corrections officers are being attacked more since April 1st, and prison staff. Oh, and by the way, inmates have been getting attacked more too. What's Kathy Hochul's a big answer to it? Now, I say we should repeal the HALT Act because it clearly had the effect that was guaranteed when it went to effect. She says, well, we're just going to no longer call inmates and we'll just call them incarcerated individuals, and then that's that. So these are issues that should keep her up at night, and I don't believe that they do. I believe that it's important for the governor of New York to be somebody who wants to be the governor for all New Yorkers. And Kathy Hochul has really done a lot here over these last few weeks to alienate millions of New Yorkers who already were unhappy with the direction of the state under her leadership. There was a point where people started saying Kathy Hochul was Andrew Cuomo 2.0, but there are a lot of people who are saying that, who are actually not saying that anymore because they believe that she is that much worse. And this is coming from people who are not supporters of Governor Cuomo. That's how bad they feel about her leadership and how strongly they feel about that.
So Kathy Hochul today started a $2 million ad campaign around the state, both print and TV, where she describes you as extreme and dangerous. And she links you to former President Trump, both your vote to overturn the 2020 election and the fact that you are using him to help you raise money, et cetera, et cetera. How do you feel about that, and how do you feel about her charge that you're extreme and dangerous?
I believe it's extreme that Kathy Hochul refuses to repeal cashless bail. I believe that it's extreme when we watch videos on a Monday morning of all of the crime that took place around the city all weekend long and Kathy Hochul doesn't do anything about it. I think congestion pricing is extreme. I believe that the impact on our farmers upstate as a consequence of today's vote of the Wage Labor Board is extreme. I believe that watching our corrections officers get attacked, where Rikers Island captain just got stabbed in the neck. I believe it's extreme when the Bronx District Attorney has a case handed to her where, all caught on video, a guy who is a convicted sex offender puts on a glove, not just regular glove, this glove was a weapon, and sucker punches somebody into a coma. And the NYPD, doing their work, they charge attempted murder. And then the district attorney reduces it to misdemeanor assault and harassment. That's extreme. I think it's extreme when Jose Alba was sent to Rikers Island by Alvin Bragg. I think it's extreme when a Queens judge decides to release somebody despite the prosecutor trying to get bail set, and the person goes off to murder a Goldman Sachs employee on the New York City subway. I think it's extreme when a Queens judge lets a criminal out on the street and the prosecutor was asking for bail, and then that person shows right back up in the news as the Times Square slasher just a few weeks ago. I think it's extreme that we've reached the point where 2 Mexican cartel drug smugglers could get busted with $1.2 million worth of crystal meth and be instantly released on cashless bail. And that list goes on. And all of that is extreme, but what she doesn't want to do is talk about the issues that matter most to New Yorkers. Now, if we were to take a field trip, we were to go downstairs, go talk to the first 30 people we come across. What is your top issue in this November's election? By the way, we don't know the first 30 people we're going to come across. We don't know if they're going to be New Yorkers, visitors. We don't know if they live in Manhattan, if they're commuters. If we were to go knock on some doors, or we were just to stand there in the streets, New Yorkers are telling us that their top 2 issues are crime and the economy. If we take this walk and we ask people, what's your top issue? And everyone, instead of talking about crime and the economy, they are instead talking about issue X that Kathy Hochul wants to distract and talk about. Well, then maybe we should talk more about whatever that issue is that she's trying to change the topic to. But what I'm doing is talking about the issues that New Yorkers say they want us focused on. I think it's very telling that Kathy Hochul put an ad out as her first ad of the general election. She's putting millions of dollars behind an ad. Is it about making the streets of New York City any safer? No. Is it about making life in New York any more affordable? No. Is it about protecting freedoms? Is it about the quality of our kids' education? None of that. And I think that's very telling about where Kathy Hochul's priorities are. Because I'm in this race because I want to do my part to save the state. Kathy Hochul is in this race because she wants to save Kathy Hochul.